Good morning, Giants. Have you ever wondered what it means to have anxiety? You're going to want to watch this episode. Hang tight, and we'll be right back. Good morning, Giants. So hopefully somebody will join me. We'll see. If you want to comment in the comments here, any thoughts you have around this topic, that would be helpful. But I'm going to dive into it, and we'll spend just a little bit this morning talking about anxiety. You'll see one of the topics in the tribe is on anxiety. And the word anxiety comes from ang, meaning pressure, that tight, like your world is restricted, where you're separated from the way it used to be. And so or control, there's this tightness around your life. And so anxiety is this adrenal symptom in your body where you feel this fear or anxiety, and then it floods your body with adrenaline. Excuse me, I can't talk here. And then you have this rush of cortisol. So you're battling these symptoms in your body. Some of the most current research, though, is saying that anxiety stems from people not being able to be within a society or a group. And so that separation from a group causes stress, depression, and anxiety because we're no longer part of something bigger. And one of the beautiful things about the tribe is that we're able to have a community where we can support each other. And that's kind of going back in time. That's one of the things that really supported us around anxiety, is that we had other people that we could lean on, and we weren't shunned or put in a corner because of our symptoms. And so with anxiety, a lot of times we're told to just get over it, to deal with it, to be strong, to keep it to ourselves in a way. And that's really the opposite way we need to go when it comes to anxiety. So when you talk about anxiety, a lot of people have it. In the US, it's one of the bigger problems that we have, I think, in all first world countries, because we have this isolation that's occurring. And we're kind of on islands by ourselves. We have connection through social media, but there hasn't been this social connection like we used to have when we were tribes. And so I want to discuss it. So if you have some thoughts around this, please comment. Any questions? That'll give me some topic material that I can talk about. But in 2017, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And as I look back on it and reflect on it, a lot of it stemmed from feeling alone. A lot of it felt like I had to show up a certain way. If I looked at my work and didn't feel supported, then I would struggle. I would have stress around it. I would have fears around being judged as a certain thing. And so there are some biochemical causes to anxiety. You could have some things that cause your body to push more adrenaline than the average human. But in most cases, it's a belief pattern, a thinking pattern, and a support pattern. And so I want to talk about briefly Rat Park. Rat Park was an experiment that was done back in the 60s. What they did is they isolated rats, and then they gave them the option between water and heroin. And the rats, of course, went for the heroin, and they became addicted. And many of them just drank it to the point that they ended up dying in the cage. They did another experiment where they got the rats addicted to heroin, and then they put them in this community. So there were other rats there were toys, there was plenty of things to do. And then they also had the water and the heroin, and not one of the rats went for the heroin, not one time. And so the idea is that when there's isolation, then we tend to go into states of depression. We go into states of anxiety because we're just alone. And so, Lori, good morning. Perfect. This morning, I have a huge live interview tomorrow. I can feel the anxiety building. Perfect. Yeah, it's one of those things where inside of you, you're feeling this experience. What I'd recommend around this is get around some other speakers that also feel that anxiety, and let's create a support around that. Let's talk about it. If you want to talk to me about it, message me and we'll talk you through it. because when you feel alone and you have that anxiety, it tends to get bigger for some reason. And so just knowing that you have support, kind of going into the idea of the Rat Park experiment, is that if you're isolated and you pull away from your tribe, then you tend to have more depression and anxiety than the normal. And so, yeah, being in quarantine has definitely created anxiety for my teenagers. Isn't that interesting? Being isolated, quarantine, has created anxiety for my teenagers. I watched a video this morning, a TEDx talk. I'll post the link to it because it was beautiful. He talked about an example of a farmer who in Cambodia stepped on a mine and it blew his leg off completely. And he was working in the rice fields and he stepped on this mine and blew his leg off. And so they got him a prosthetic, and then he had to go back into the fields and work. And he got severe depression and anxiety. And so they were talking to this community, about antidepressants. They said, "Oh yeah, we gave him an antidepressant for sure." And so they put him back in the field, and he starts getting more severe anxiety, depression, because he's out in an environment that really hurts on his leg. And so he goes home. He's in bed. The doctors of the community come see him, and they talk to him. They support him. They love him. They talk to the other elders of the community, and they say, this guy, one thing we could do is we could give him a cow, because if we can give him a cow, then he can become a dairy farmer, and that'll help him out. So they did. They got him a cow. He became a dairy farmer, and his depression went completely away. And so they told the doctors that were there studying, about anxiety. They told them about this antidepressant called a cow. They gave the guy a cow and community support. And so it's kind of funny because you wouldn't think that something like that would help somebody. We think in terms of you got to take a pill. A lot of it has to do with your ability to just sit with the emotions, but also have support in those emotions, to feel okay in those emotions. And so what does it mean to have anxiety? It means that your body is tense, that you're full of adrenaline, that you feel scared, you feel uncertain about the future, and you feel alone. What a big thing. Now, there's an important part. Barry McDonough, in his book, Dare, talks about diffusing your anxiety, accepting and allowing your anxiety, running toward it, not running away from it, and then re-engaging with something meaningful. And so it's really important to come together with a common cause, to find something that you can do with others, where there's this sense of community. So Lori, going back to your comment here, if there's a community of speakers that also feel that anxiety, that could really support you in what you're doing. Now, I've got to be clear here. This isn't mental health advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not licensed in any way. And so I want to be clear that I'm sharing some thoughts, but you probably want to check on these on your own or with your doctor if you have one. And so just to be clear, that anxiety is something that affects us all. And our bodies are wired for that. They're wired to go through that adrenal cycle. And then the cortisol comes in and it calms it down. But if too much of that causes additional stress. And so really feeling supported in that anxiety is a big thing. And so if you don't have your own tribe, if you feel isolated, that's where the tribe of giants makes sense, because you can bring your things to the community and let us support you in that. And so we can talk about it. I would invite you, if you're struggling, to reach out to me. Just send me a message and say, "Hey, I'm feeling this." And I can't be your therapist, but what I can do is support you in where you're at. And so if we can do that as a community, that could be one way for us to help others who are in the midst of anxiety and depression. And so that's my thought this morning. Hopefully Ryan's getting some sleep. I'm missing him this morning. I don't know where he's at, but hope you guys are doing well. If you have any other thoughts, share them in the comments. There's a taboo thread that you'll see if you want to comment on there as well, as far as anxiety. It affects a lot of us. And so coming together as a community just really makes it easier. And so live in Clark County, Vegas. There have been so many teen suicides. Yeah, I'm hearing that. Of all ages. This has really been impactful, this isolation, this quarantine. And so check on your friends and family, make sure everybody's okay, and offer support if you can, and really just be there. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. If you have any thoughts or questions, reach out, and let's continue to go forward as a tribe. That's the beauty of what we've got here. So you guys make it a giant day, and I will see you in the next video.